It's your time, Lennon.
Oh, yay.
Thank you,
By
Athena.
the way, thank you guys.
Awesome. It was a really great interview.
Great job today.
That was
Great interview.
so good.
Thank you.
I feel like it
Yeah.
would just be fun just to like
Bye,
hang
Athena.
out with him and
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
You did super
Have
good
coffee.
today. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Yo.
Thanks. Okay, I'll put these away.
HB, when are you going to fill in? Okay, cool.
Okay. I'll give you my microphone.
So funny.
Yay. Give it to you. Yay, thanks.
Yeah, space barista.
Like, I don't know that they need wigs in space.
You never know. You could need wigs in space. People want to get married in space, and maybe they want to look different. You don't know. Or they need extensions at the very least.
Yeah. I mean, if I can watch that theater out there anyway, right?
Yeah, I did. I called him HB1. God, it's so automatic. I can't believe I did that, and then I got called out on it. Chat may go down. Get your shoots ready. All right, we're good.
stand by, chat.
Standing by. Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh man.
Wow, like the same
That was good.
training for.
All right.
Here he comes.
That was a good show today.
Here comes Dad.
Dad's here. Oh, hang on. I forgot my computer. I think Isaac's actually still on the line if we want to pop back to him.
Real quick, I just did want to apologize for that Northrop clip that still had the audio.
It was more funny than anything because we already were like had a couple of things go on, so it was sort of like, was that you, me, you, me, you, me, you, me, you, me,
Oh, man.
and it was like I don't know who's
Well,
who's
to
or what's what.
explain. This new laptop actually has been shutting down randomly, and I've been trying to do some investigation on it. But in any case, I was in the middle of encoding that video, and the computer shut down, so I had to like pull everything back up. And of course, I didn't save the project, so
Right.
I had to re-edit it in, and I just must have forgotten to adjust the audio for it. So my bad for that.
Bye, Athena. Thank
Bye,
you.
Athena. Thank you.
Bye, Athena. Thank you.
So I tried based on. Can we bring Isaac back in? Oh, he's working on a split screen. I see it.
Yes.
I see.
Gotcha.
It's in work. I see. Magic.
Yes.
The magic of live television. There.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
So
There we go.
I can awkwardly lean in like this.
Don't do that, Ben.
But I'll have a drink from the mug.
Oh wow. I'm just gonna.
Cheers.
leave.
Trying to reposition my camera.
All right. Let's see.
Oh my goodness gracious.
There we go.
Good times. Good
Awesome.
times.
Let's see. I'm trying to see if there were other questions that maybe Athena didn't get to.
Are the IFB packs more fuzzy than usual this week?
No, I haven't heard any problems until you just sat down.
Don't look at me. My ears are
He
shot.
can't hear anything
I can't
right
do
now, poor
anything with
thing.
my ears. So.
Sorry for all the
haven't
chat room
heard-
issues. Isaac, I hope you had a fun time.
It was a great time. It's the first time I've talked to Athena, so it was a wonderful interview. Actually, it was very much a pleasure to talk to her.
Yeah. I think she did a really great job. Obviously, you did as well. Were there any topics that you wanted to get to that we didn't have time for?
None in particular. I mean, we covered so many of them. I think somebody was asking about space elevators on chat a moment ago, but I'm not sure what they were asking.
There was a question on YouTube from Mac McCauley, who
yeah.
actually gave us a tip in the YouTube chat room. Let me see if I can find that, because he did have a question for you, Isaac.
Let's see.
Let's see.
Yeah, I felt like it was right in here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm locked out of chat.
Awkward silence as we look for it.
Completely random in the meantime. I really enjoyed the episode a few days back on bionics. There was some fascinating conversation on that.
Yeah, that was the science. That was Tomorrow Science? Yeah. Yeah, I thought that one ended in an interesting area of like, well, and you guys touched on a little bit in the show today
I don't know
of
if you
like,
want that.
how do we define humanity, like moving forward? Because as we become more bionic, eventually we're just going to find ways to not be in these in water sacks anymore.
I know. I, for one, am very much wanting to get out of this.
You don't
This
like
meat sack.
You don't like your meat water sack?
No, not a big fan. And this week has definitely, given me plenty of reasons to not be a big fan of it. So, yeah.
I think the question we always come
Yeah,
to
this
with that
meat
is not so much are we personally ourselves interested in doing that, because I think most of us we'd love to have a bionic hand if ours got cut off,
Right.
but we prefer to stick with the original hardware initially. So the question becomes, can you tell people no, they're not allowed to have these things, especially if they're giving them advantages? You can maybe say to someone, well, you're not allowed to be in the Olympics if you've got a pair of bionic legs, but
Right.
can you tell them they're not allowed to get them, period, even if they give them a massive advantage, and potentially even a dangerous advantage, like someone who's got Superman strength going on?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be another area where like technology will exceed politics, right, or law. So you will start having the ability to do some of these incredible things in the not too distant future, it feels like. And yeah, that's going to be an interesting conversation. And then obviously the Bionic Wars happen shortly after that.
Clearly.
Yeah, I think that's the next stage.
So we worry about Skynet a lot and artificial intelligence, but you have to worry about other people more. And traditionally speaking, man's worst enemy is other people. So it'd be very easy to see problems. And it'd be the same thing with genetic engineering. I don't know that I want my kids to get genetically engineered, but if all of their classmates are, am I doing them a favor by not doing it? And do I have a right to outlaw something like that if I don't want my kids to be having to compete with basically Supermen? And
Right.
the question is ethical to outlaw something like that just because you don't want to do it?
It's
I
funny.
cannot wait to be a supervillain and augment my body and not let these chemicals control me and have all those amazing abilities and have brain augmentation and eventually get to the point where I have some sort of hive mind so that I could control multiple bodies at once, not all of them being humanoid. I would love to actually be a probe going out to check stuff, and I am experiencing that probe in real time along with my
Great
clone.
book on that. My friend Dennis E. Taylor, he did a series called The Barbaverse, where actually the guy's an uploaded AI, and he has a bunch of copies of himself that are out there exploring and colonizing the galaxy. And but
That's
so
my
many of these
evil plan.
topics, they come in science fiction first, and they give us an idea of what we should be worrying about. But then when we actually sit down and look at them, sometimes they are non-issues we don't have to worry about. Other times they are way more complex than we expected them to be.
I also think it's hilarious on a somewhat related note, but not really, that like half of the Tomorrow hosts would be superheroes, but it looks like the other half of the Tomorrow hosts would be supervillains. So
Are you?
yeah.
I assume you're
would
a
you be
hero.
That's what
or-
weekends
I'm
are for.
assuming you go hero.
Who's got the most money?
The villains always have more money.
Okay, I'm done. Well, I think I would go. I'm chaotic neutral. I definitely will go wherever I feel like going.
No. What I just realized very quickly, and all of a sudden, is that all of the men would be villains, and all of the women would definitely be on the. Like, I can't imagine Athena going, "Oh yes, I want to destroy humanity." Like, that's not ever something she's going to say. Jade is a little 50-50, but
Oh yeah, that's true. I think she's a supervillain wrapped as a superhero,
Right.
like infiltrating the superhero hangout.
she's also on the.
I like
converted.
ZWB in there, benevolent evil.
Benevolent
So
evil.
that's a bit more.
Tomorrow's Civil War. Oh God.
No,
Yeah.
I feel like Athena would be a supervillain accidentally.
Isaac, would you go for villain or hero yourself?
I was going to say hero, but the problem is I often play lawful good and lawful neutral characters officially, but my friends tell me that I usually play a little bit more like lawful semi-evil.
That's amazing.
Semi-evil. Neutral evil.
Yeah, no, I would definitely
That's
be on the hero side.
What they call it, going black hat, I think,
Yes.
in things like Westworld, where it's, we all, for the most part, good people. But when you can go ahead and blow hundreds, I think that's why zombie games are so popular, is you can run around shooting people without the least bit of guilt. you know?
Right? Right. Exactly. Grand Theft Auto, the whole nine. Absolutely.
Yep.
That's so funny.
I feel like I would be like the misunderstood evil villain though, because my whole plan once I become immortal is to go out and start doing the work that needs to be done to start terraforming the planets and preparing our solar system for the future human expansion.
So
but I would be
Thanos.
misunderstood as an evil villain the entire time. Yeah,
No.
not quite
That
Thanos,
was my favorite
but
character in Marvel was always Doctor Doom.
Oh
yeah,
yes.
that's more. Yeah,
It is.
that's a little bit closer.
He had his own series for a while, and they were doing the 2099 comics in the mid 90s, and he was the only one of those characters I actually particularly liked. Definitely my favorite, I suppose, villain would be Doctor Doom, or maybe Thanos. I actually haven't seen that new Avengers film yet, though. I always wait for things to come out on DVD.
Then I won't say anything about it. But he definitely feels like he's
Oh, it's
misunderstood,
been
though.
spoiled for me.
Yeah, Doctor Doom was that kind of gray area.
I think I'm more like Dr. Horrible, where like I want to be evil, but inherently I'm actually not.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm just not good at being evil.
Yeah, you and Athena are nearly diametrically opposed. Like
She wants to be good, but she's
and accidentally
inadvertently
just
evil.
right.
And I want to be evil, but I just can't quite do it.
There has to be a balance.
Or maybe that's you and Lisa.
Who's Captain Hammer
What do you mean, who's Captain Hammer?
in the group? Who would be?
That's why you'd be a villain, like.
Oh, I mean, you're kind of Captain Hammer.
You'd be like the hooded hero.
I feel like I've lost half the crew at this point.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Sure have.
sorry.
So,
Dr. Horrible sing-along blog. Y'all need to look it up.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
I mean, I know what's up.
Okay.
Obviously.
Too many cooks thing.
Too many
Google
cooks.
yourself.
No.
No, this is not another Too Many Cooks thing. Have you not seen Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog?
That's actually good.
That's great.
I heard
I'd
about
forgotten.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone has homework. Everyone has homework. Go watch Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
You won't
It is-
disappoint me.
It will not be disappointing. It is delightful. You will enjoy it.
No. They all disappoint me.
Yeah, and y'all disappoint me.
Does it hinge upon me having before?
No, it does
No.
not hinge upon you having
no,
seen
this
Infinity
is
War.
different. So it's wholesome.
So,
I just can't take you seriously.
Oh yeah, Mac's question in the YouTube chat
There you
was directed at Isaac. He said that forget about faster than light travel for a second. Do you think that we'll have faster than light communication within this century?
No. I mean, I always like to leave the door open to the possibility. And of course, you have fast and light communication. You pretty much have fast and light travel, again, at least for post-biological life. But I really do not think we're ever going to find a loophole for that one or the laws of thermodynamics. If we're going to find it, I think we'll find it in the next century or two. But I would not be the least bit surprised for people to be sitting around a couple trillion years from now, living around those last stars, still trying to find a way to crack either one of those.
if we do crack it, how do you think, in your opinion, what would be the way we crack it? Is it bending space-time? It doesn't seem like actual FTL, like finding a way to accelerate faster than light is going to be super
I
viable.
guess depends on whether or not, I mean, if we actually manage to find negative mass, I mean, real negative mass, not popular science hypothetical negative mass, that does leave the table open, at least for something like the Alcubierre drive's subluminal variety. But I would tend to still put my money on wormholes if there was going to be anything that was going to allow it, and I still don't expect them to actually be viable. But the thing is, whatever it is, it's got to have some way that it explains why you can't do time travel. Fast and light is such an issue for the Fermi paradox in the first place, but if you throw time travel into it, to say, what was it, Douglas Adams said, when was time travel discovered? And he says, well, time travel gets discovered at all points in history simultaneously. And you have to have a good reason why you never met a time traveler. And Stephen Hawking, may he rest in peace, did that party the one time to welcome time travelers, and allegedly no one showed up.
I love how you said allegedly no one showed up. That's great. It's like, well, we weren't there. We don't know. Maybe.
Was it the Venture Brothers had an episode where they had a time traveler show up from the future, and I could see somebody going, "I'm from the future," and you can't tell anyone about this meeting. And Of course, again, also Douglas Adams. He'd another of his fun jokes was, "How do you call yourself if you've been time traveling away from home?" And let me just go ahead and do the conversation for you. Hello, is this Arthur Dent? Yes, this is Arthur Dent. Hi, this is Arthur Dent. He hung up.
Nice.
It's very hard to convince yourself that you actually time travel.
I love it.
There's another I miss way too much.
Although, if let's just say that did happen. Let's just say a time traveler did come back. Wouldn't that then potentially create a split in realities, where one timeline is now split off, and so potentially we wouldn't actually see that because there's actually a break, and now we've got two parallel realities that have diverged.
You've got a few different ways you can look at that. Option one is that there's the main reality, and you have branching ones coming off of it. Option two is you got that whole multiverse set up, and there is not only a universe where that's happened, but there are an virtually infinite number of universes in which a time traveler just popped out of nowhere, or at least thinks they did, because they might have assembled from random dirt, with complete memory by quantum weirdness, and they didn't actually travel in time, but they have complete memories of having done so. Fake ones, but genuine enough. And then, of course, you've got the possibility that they just changed time in some way. And I think it was the Novikov self-consistency principle, where no matter what you do, something's going to happen that keeps the timeline intact. Not by any, sentient factor involved, but more in the same way that when it rains, the water's going to end up back in the ocean eventually, no matter what route it takes. So let's say, for instance, that I travel back in time to unassassinate Kennedy. And I did. But for me to have the motivation to do that, he'd have to be assassinated. So maybe the various pathways of reality follow up until nobody else remembers Kennedy getting assassinated. But for some reason, I happen to believe he was, even though every history book says otherwise. And I've become literally crazy. And I am convinced, even though Kennedy lived to be, 92, that I have to travel back in time to save Kennedy. And, it sounds absurd. Unfortunately, I think with time travel, it kind of tends to do so. But you could only have a timeline, if there was a single timeline that had to be self-consistent, that ended in a scenario that still leaves you the motivation to travel back in time. And there should be a finite probability that you would be able to be crazy enough to believe Kennedy had been assassinated when he hadn't been, and decide to travel back in time and do something about it. I have to admit that I do not find this a compelling argument, though.
Or another way that the timeline could correct itself was, you might save, in that example, Kennedy from being assassinated at that particular time in Dallas, but then he might have been assassinated a week later or something like that. Somehow the timeline would have corrected itself.
And we get that horrible butterfly effect thing going on, and I think Asimov again. He'd gone for the inertia of time thing in one of his best books, Into Eternity, and I don't buy it for a second because there is no inertia factor time. The butterfly effect rules over everything. But if there was something like that, you could actually potentially have time travel that was self-consistent, so as you didn't land anywhere too near yourself, as it were. That things just tend to correct themselves out over time, and there aren't a lot of key events. But again, butterfly effect, every event is a key event. There is a single change of a single atom is going to eventually radiate out to have a massive change on the universe. And I just don't see any way around that.
Raj from YouTube asks, we're going backwards a little bit, do you watch Orville and the Expanse TV series? And extending on that, do you watch any sci-fi, and then do you get angry at it?
I was going to say I actually read more fantasy. Well, I mostly do audiobooks these days, more fantasy and history than I do sci-fi these days. But for me, it depends on, to me, there's a zone of where it's just space opera and you don't have to think about it. And then there's hard science fiction where it actually makes you think about it. And the dangerous zone is in between, where someone's trying to do hard science fiction and they're making you think about the mistakes they're making. And that tends to ruin it. So it's the usual advice I give authors is, always try to do your research first, whether it's on science or not, but stay away from any area where you've not done your research, because one mistake that people catch like that is going to throw their entire suspension of disbelief off.
Yeah.
But I mean, I enjoy Star Wars. I think my favorite show that came out recently, besides The Expanse, which is pretty good sci-fi in terms of its science, is Dark Matter. They didn't even try there, and I salute them for that. It's like Doctor Who. It's still a great show. The science is awful.
Yes. Yes.
But they don't claim to be, right? I mean, that's the thing.
No, for sure.
Yeah, they don't. I mean,
There's a couple of
there
ones that
can't
are
be
like
on
that.
purpose.
And we give people, I mean, if you think about something like a historical fiction or historical fantasy, one little mistake there and the book's going to get panned and no one's going to read it. We tend to give people a lot more leeway in science fiction with the accurate science than most other fields would give about their own expertise. And, you couldn't write a mystery set in New York City and refer to Central Park as being over in Chicago without people getting very enraged by that. So we do give people a lot of leeway on sci-fi. I think there's this impression that the fans are always grabbing at canon and be it scientific errors or mess ups with canon, but I don't think we actually tend to be that much. I think they're very unfair to their fans in that respect. It's in media's cases where they do one of these canon errors would be like somebody doing a Civil War movie where they said, and under President Jeff Davis, the Union won. Yeah. And I think I'm not going to poke at Star Wars, but I was very upset by how they treated their fan base. Regardless that I think some of the movies were quite nice. So, it's a personal gripe of mine. I do not like the way some studios or writers treat their fans.
Yeah, no. Totally fair. Totally
I
fair.
don't remember what the actual question was.
Oh, no, I mean, that's...
I'm just
Just
curious
if you watch
your
sci-fi.
Yeah.
What's your sci-fi cred, yo?
What's your sci-fi cred, yo?
Oh, wow.
Tweaking the TV while I had
You said earlier too that you grew up on Star Trek, so bonus points
Oh,
there.
I'm sorry, which one?
Jared, have you
Original
started
series?
watching Star Trek yet?
What's up?
You
started
Next
watching Star
Generation
Trek
didn't
yet,
come
Jared?
out until '87, but I actually didn't get to see any Next Generation episodes until maybe '89 or so. So for me, classic TOS is the original show, but TNG. Well, my favorite series is actually Deep Space Nine. Though it's a close one between them and TNG.
No.
And I think I do like the original series, but heretically, I actually did like a lot of Voyager and the Enterprise. I'm not too taken with the new series yet, but I haven't finished watching the full season yet, and I always like to binge. I watch the pilot and the first episode of a new series, and then I'll wait till it's done and binge watch it. So that way I know if it's canceled or not, too. I did it with the Orville. I love that show.
Discovery
I
got
like
better.
The third episode or
got
fourth
much
episode,
better.
came back and loved the rest of them.
Yeah, I'll say Star Trek Discovery, fun sci-fi and bad Star Trek, if that makes any sense. It's bad sci-fi. Well, it's like not. It's.
I don't want to pick too much on them because everyone's been people say, "Oh, give us a new show forever today," and then when we get it, we're not happy. You can't please the fans sometimes. But at the same time, I do wish that they would spend less effort rebooting series and more effort coming up with new ones because there's so many new stories they could tell. And if you're going to cash in on the franchise, which I understand why you would do that, you've got a good viewership base there. Try to stay more true to it. Lost in Space is a great example. The original show was so campy that I knew they were going to have to tone that down, but they seem like they went, and I haven't finished watching their first season either, but it seems like they went the exact opposite way, going from a fun, campy show to something that was almost grimdark, I think is a term from 40K. And I don't think, that was the right path to go for them. So.
It's funny. I actually didn't mind the new Lost in Space series. I kind of enjoyed it. To your
I
point
haven't seen
about
the rest of the fourth season yet, so I might be being unfair. But and there were some good moments there. I really much liked Penny and her older sister, whose name I can't remember at the moment. They seem like they're having fun, but I do
takes
feel
a
like the
minute.
new show could have been a little bit less dark.
Yeah, it does take. It has it's both. I want to say it gets dark, but then it does have better moments. It's a back and forth. Just to your point on Star Trek, though, I think personally I'm prequeled out, and if you're going to do a prequel, then you need to honor your own canon. And if you're not going to do that, then don't do a prequel. I would have been fine with Star Trek Discovery if they had pushed it in the timeline behind everything else instead of in front of. And I think that's my big gripe is that now we're seeing technology that shouldn't exist. They're hologram. We went backwards in tech. We got rid of holograms in TNG. What the heck?
Right.
I mean, there's
We got
some
rid
amount
of
the audience will
touchscreens
accept
and went
on
to
that,
knobs.
like with Doctor Who. You don't have to put the dials back on the devices. We accept that. You can have technology that wasn't present in the original series. We're going to accept that. But no, I think, and this is something I do keep in mind for the writers on both Star Wars and Star Trek is there is so much canon out there. For Star Trek, you have how many hundreds of episodes, and for Star Wars, you only have the official movies and the couple of shows like Clone Wars, but then you have hundreds of expanded universe books, and many of which were absolute trash. Although I was quite fond of quite a few of them too. And I can understand from a writing perspective why the studio would say, look, there's no way we can bring in writers on these who are going to be able to do these unless they have read every single one of them. And truth be told, you don't really want the stuff written by fans either.
Right.
Because even a very good writer is going to do something that's kind of glorified fanfic at that point. So you do want to give the writers a new place to play with. But I was saying with Star Wars, I think they'd have been better off, instead of trying to do it ahead in time, if they had done one of the periods of time in the expanding universe that was fairly unknown, say, 3,000 years before Yavin, and then just have Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford in there telling a kind of a story about it where maybe it gets interlocked by they found some old temple and then they get attacked at the end, just so you can have them in there doing stuff. And then that gives you a chance to introduce new characters. The fans are happy because they can see the old characters, and the writers can actually do whatever they want now because they're not bound by canon, but they didn't have to throw all the canon out.
Right.
At least not all at once. And then I think to a degree that might have been what they were aiming to do with Star Trek, except that, as you said, they said it right before. And it doesn't feel right in that case. But they kind of have to because, like with Enterprise, even setting it 100 years back was so close to the modern timeline, you're always wondering, why don't they ever mention Captain Archer in the original shows?
Yep.
So with that being just so soon after they discovered warp travel, you kind of have to do it close in. So I think you're right, though, that they would have been better off setting that much further ahead in time.
Yeah, and they could have told those same stories in a different timeline and not had these same issues. Again, I actually do enjoy it as a show. If I just remove myself from expecting them to maintain and honor canon, I'm okay. But I feel like I shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
It
you were
does
saying-
that perspective,
have a
it's
problem though
great
is nobody's
show,
going to be willing to buy anything that's not definitely canon anymore. Is you're never going to get those anymore. None of those books or spin-offs because no one's going to believe they'll be kept around, and they don't believe they're real for the purpose of it. So why read them? Blade Runner was my favorite movie ever because I'm a big film noir fan, and I remember there were sequels to that. They did that with Stargate too. Some book sequels totally tossed out. As much as I love the new film, as much as I love the SG-1 series for Stargate, you kind of miss those books that got completely retconned out of existence.
Lisa's happy right now. She
Something-
loves Stargate. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Just to keep on Star Trek for a second, something that I really loved about Enterprise was how it explained why things look so different from the original series to Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and all that sort of stuff. And it just wrapped everything up in a nice bow. And then Discovery just blows all of that out of the water. And probably my biggest irk with it is the Klingon language. I mean, like a lot of fake languages out there, like the Lord of the Rings Elvish and stuff like that, it's very clearly defined, has a dictionary, has people that speak it fluently.
They didn't have
And
to toss that out because it was fully usable, but they did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why
toss out a
I don't know.
fully
And
fleshed out
to be
language
honest, I
and
was
create
not
a new
happy
one?
with what they did with the Klingons either. I appreciate Abrams
neither.
wanting to give them a slightly more modern look. They did it with TNG too, and I think it worked. But this is a very established culture. If you want to have new aliens, have new aliens. Don't reboot one that's existing.
Exactly.
That
And
that
change
actually,
everything about them.
all you have to do to fix Discovery, in my opinion, is change the aliens to not be Klingons, just something new. They can still look the same, just don't call them Klingons, and move it forward in time to some time that's not, but like.
Just kidding. You heard us say Klingon? No, it's not Klingon. Actually, in your language, it's X.
So, boom.
Ready, go.
You just move it to later in
You've
time.
been calling us Klingons this whole time. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so now
We're
it's
not
not
Klingons.
it's not a prequel anymore. You can have all the cool new tech now, and everything falls into place just by fixing those two little tweaks. I feel like that's all they needed to do.
And instead
One
of
of
it
the nice
being,
things, and I
even with all the
acknowledge that when
changes-
Battlestar Galactica brought in the old Apollo to be, I can't remember his name, the character from the Reimagined series, but the fans appreciate seeing the old characters again. And, by doing it forward in time, exactly opposite of what I was initially done with Star Wars, it does give you a chance to see Jean-Luc Picard again in uniform, to see, an Admiral Picard, an Admiral Sisko, an Admiral Janeway. We did get to see an Admiral Janeway actually in one of the films for like 10 seconds. But it's nice to be able to reconnect with the fan base that way. And I don't want to be.
Boom!
Oh no!
It's 1 o'clock,
What happened?
and I did not schedule that meeting for long enough.
Oh no!
Oh.
Oh, fail!
Oh no.
I'm like, why did that? Oh.
We can try to reach out.
No,
and bring it back.
I think this has been a pretty. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Internet. I'm sorry, Isaac.
You screwed up, Ben.
I screwed up. I thought
You
1
blew
o'clock.
it.
I thought 1 o'clock was enough time.
No.
It's not. Yeah.
Well, that
Well,
was
if I
your
could make
fault.
one last final point
Yeah, go
real
ahead,
quick.
then.
Go
We'll
ahead,
close out the
Mike,
show,
because
Mike.
now you can talk.
With Discovery, I feel like with all of the changes that they made, especially to the Klingons,
Yeah.
it would have fit in perfectly if it was in the J.J. Abrams universe for the movie reboots, and not putting it in the Prime universe where the rest
sure.
of because J.J. is that's an alternate reality.
Sure.
It's an alternate universe.
Yep.
So and the Klingons in his movies looked like the Klingons in Discovery, so it should have been in that alternate universe and how futuristic all the
they?
technology looked.
I-
It should have been that, but it's not. It's the Prime universe.
no.
It's not the
Did
JJ.
No. That's what I'm saying, though. Do the Klingons really look like the ones in the J.J. Abrams universe?
Have we seen Klingons
Yeah,
in the J.J.
wasn't it the second? It was the Wrath of Khan one, or was it the very first one where they go and they land on the Klingon planet for a little while and they have that fight and a bird of prey comes like right down. It's kind of silly actually that it comes right down in the middle of their fight. You remember that? And like one of the Klingons had like all these ring piercings along his ridges and stuff like that. I mean, it looked kind of like an in between the Klingons from like Next Generation DS9 and the Klingons in Discovery, but they looked pretty different compared to the Klingons from TNG.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, now I gotta look that up because it's gonna bother me.
That was
that note-
that was the second. That was the second of the J.J. Abrams movies.
Okay.
Because Khan shows up with his big old giant freaking plasma like machine gun thing and shoots down the bird of prey and everything else.
Right. Boobadoo, boobadoo. Images. Interesting.
Yeah. Despite all that, though, I very much enjoyed Discovery. I'm glad that I pushed through the first couple of episodes because it got really, really good. Really freaking good.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Anyway.
Anything else, Jared?
No,
The gigantic Star Trek fan that you are?
I got nothing. I got nothing to add at the moment. So I've been purposefully avoiding things for at least the next couple of months since I'm doing like writing things. I just want to make sure
No,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
like subconsciously pull stuff in.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Right on. All right.
Ever told you the sci-fi series I want to build?
which one?
Well, that's true. There are two of them, but I want to start one at the end.
Tomorrowism?
No, I want to actually start the series and show you in the very beginning how it ends, and then go back and tell the story of how we got there.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And then it ends. It ends in the beginning, if that makes any sense, in a very specific way. And then it's a multi-year arc to show like, oh, this is everything that led up to that moment.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my series.
That'd be cool.
Because everyone always loves those.
Well, it's kind of neat when
Those are
you
typically clip shows. You know that, right?
clip shows. No. It's. I
In
think
regular series.
I think it'd be kind of cool to actually like know that we're building towards like this. Oh crap, we're gonna get here, and like how we got there.
So here's the end point, and now we're raising the stakes the entire time on that.
Marty the Martian
correct,
says
yeah.
it's been done, Ben.
it's cool.
Lots.
Yeah.
Stratty says very JMS of you.
JMS.
I don't know. It literally just says JMS.
I can't recall a sci-fi series that has really done that. Or I mean,
Sarge Enzyme was like, would you call it spoilers?
that's hilarious. Like Babylon 5 didn't do that, right? They didn't start at the end. They progressed through. You didn't know where it was going. So but it was an arc, right? So
Was it the last episode of Westworld kind of like that?
We wouldn't know because I've been out of town. So unless he watched it without me, which he shouldn't have,
I did not.
then we wouldn't know.
But that would be a single episode and wouldn't actually apply to the whole overarching.
Thank you, Stratty.
Well, I think
There you
some
go.
shows have like done that in the middle type of a thing.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
JMS,
Some shows
yeah.
have done that in the
That
middle.
is- so-
Typically a clip show. Like,
So For those who are saying that Babylon 5 did this, Babylon 5 did not do this. When you start Babylon 5,
God,
you
we
do
started
not.
the Babylon 5 conversation. Yes.
You do not actually see the ending of Babylon 5. You don't know where it's going to go. You know there's a war coming, but you have no idea who's going to win. You don't know anything about the Vorlons or the Shadows. You come into it empty. And I'm actually going to just flip it 180 degrees the other direction. I don't think I have actually seen this done before.
I think what's typically done before is they.
I've only seen that in anime.
Like the scene just before the climax shown at the very beginning, and then you build back up and show all that history, and then you have to finish up with the climax.
Yeah, and the difference is I would actually give it to you all the way up front and then build up to it.
You give it to me all the time.
Yeah.
So you just know who all dies and who lives, and then.
What is the chat? Oh, that's so good. That is so good.
I love that game.
Tell them for people who aren't in the chat room.
Motham says Ben wants to make a sci-fi How I Met Your Mother.
But they didn't.
Oh my God,
Why is it
that's so amazing. Right, they showed everything up until
God.
the climax, essentially. Oh man.
like show?
On that note, thank you everyone so much for watching. That's our show. We'll see you next week. That'll be a lot of fun.
So good.
And thank you, David, for technical directing this one. I don't think we
Yeah.
called him out on that one, but yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, great job,
Hal
David.
9000.
yeah.
Woohoo.
Hal 9000 was
And,
technical directing this show. So
Mr. Mike?
All of you guys watching, look forward to next week at the ISDC conference. Collected quite a few interviews, and we're going to start putting those out on Friday. If that's cool with cool with Ben, cool with everyone.
yeah, cool. Let's make it go.
Yay.
On that note,
Awesome.
thank you everyone. See you in a week.
Bye.